Germany is confronting an enemy within its own military, an infiltration of neo-Nazis. According to the New York Times, there is evidence emerging of soldiers with neo-Nazi sympathies taking rank within the country's armed forces. The German government, which has seen a recent surge of right-wing populism, is growing concerned about an attack at the heart of a democracy that has been largely stable since the fall of the Berlin Wall. For more, let's bring in Jeffrey Rathke in McLean, Virginia. He's the president of the American Institute for Contemporary German Studies at Johns Hopkins University. Welcome, Jeffrey. Great to have you with us. So what more do we know about these extremists within the German military, and how extensive does the problem appear to be?
Things to keep in mind in this case. The first one is that there have been indications for several years of a problem of right-wing extremists in the ranks, but previous governments did not do a thorough and effective job of rooting it out. And that seems to be changing now. The defense minister has instituted a broad review. They have strengthened the legal authorities to remove and dismiss soldiers who violate these kinds of restrictions, and they appear to be going at uprooting this problem in the German armed forces. And the second thing that I think is important is that where this phenomenon occurred. It was in the German Special Forces, which, like in the United States, is an elite group of service members, and in Germany, one that sticks together and doesn't rotate especially frequently. And so that meant that they were allowed to, these units were able to build these extremist tendencies largely unobserved. And so one of the reforms that the defense minister instituted was to dissolve the unit where there was concern, and also to change the structure so that there won't be this kind of secretiveness to the same degree, and so that they have greater observation powers over tendencies in the armed forces.
So the government is starting to tackle it then, because from the Times reporting, it made it sound like many German officials are still lacking an understanding of the sheer numbers involved in this apparent web of neo-Nazis within the military. So what else is the country doing to root out these extremists? And why do you think it's taken politicians there so long to take the neo-Nazis seriously? Even after we saw the rise of the far-right Alternative for Germany party in the last parliamentary elections.
Well, this is, there has been an attempt over the years to not to go in too deep into the security forces. And again, that is changing now, I think, because people realize that the far-right political movement, the AfD, is here to stay for the foreseeable future, and so there is a need to deal with the problem of extremism in state institutions in a way that people didn't see the urgency of in the past. I think that's true not only in the army and in the military, but also in the police and domestic security forces, where there have long been rumors of right-wing sympathies within the police and other structures. So there have been a number of high-profile attacks by extremists over the last couple of years, including the murder of a local politician by an extremist. And so this has woken up the country that they've got a deeper problem they need to deal with, and that it requires not just whack-a-mole efforts, but a much more thorough and fundamental approach.
And then there's not the worry that this is a little too little, a little too late.
Well, I think it's fair to say that what Germany had done until a few months ago was completely inadequate, and there is still more that needs to be done. In particular, when you think about the police and other domestic law enforcement institutions, where there is anecdotal evidence of at times sympathies for extremists. I think what the armed forces are doing is a very good approach to the problem because they are making structural changes and they have put the uniformed military in charge of carrying them out. So it's not just a civilian effort against people in uniform, which would be divisive. Instead, the Minister of Defense has gotten the armed forces leadership on her side to confront and tackle this problem. But there's certainly more to do, Tanya.
Right. So, in a speech before the European Parliament on Wednesday, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the coronavirus has revealed and exposed the limits of, quote, fact-denying populism. So do you think that one of the results of the coronavirus is that perhaps we're seeing signs of a shift away from some of these resurgent right-wing ideologies in Germany?
Well, this is certainly a leadership moment for Chancellor Merkel. She sees it that way, and she has called the pandemic the greatest challenge Germany has faced since the country was founded in 1949 as West Germany. And if you look at public opinion in Germany, support for the far right has been on a gentle decline. And I think that's in part because people realize they have no actual solutions or policies to offer that would address these kinds of global challenges, a pandemic, a public health challenge. They don't have any answers. And I think the German public is recognizing that. But it's a slow process. Merkel's own personal standing is very high. She has tremendous credibility with the German public, and she is actually at the peak of her popularity, even after having been in power for 15 years, which is pretty remarkable.
Well, Jeff Rathke, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your extensive insight into Germany with us. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Tanya.